I say any day of the week. If I see a black man with a white woman, I'm like, that's that deep ass self-hate, my nigga. You need to do something about that, right? Flip that same coin. I see my sister with a man, I'm gonna say girl, go where you loved.
Yeah, we back. Now today's gonna be a quick video. Gonna be reacting to a clip that recently came across my attention. And it was this podcast, this brother and this lady, they were having a conversation. I guess they were talking about politics and presidential candidates, and the topic of Obama came up and Kamala Harris. But also she had said that one of the main reasons that she would never vote for a black Republican, for example, is because a lot of the black Republicans tend to, date outside their race and things like that, date white women. And she said that one thing the Republicans could do to gain ground with the black vote is to present a candidate that is a black man with a black wife and a black family, similar to Obama, right? The same way that Obama had Michelle and he had his black daughters, and that image definitely helped his credibility, especially amongst the black community and black women especially. So she said that one thing the Republicans could do is to present a candidate, a black man with a black wife. And they also went on to say that if Barack Obama had a white woman, then potentially he would have never became president of the United States. And then the brother switched the topic and he said, what do you think about, Kamala Harris? Because Kamala Harris, obviously, she had a white man and things like that. And she said, Kamala Harris, that didn't bother me, right? I don't got a problem with a black woman, sharing power with a white man. But she said that a black man, with a white woman, she would never go along with that, right? So I want to have as always, an anthropological, historical, and cultural discussion surrounding this phenomenon, right? How come when they see a black man with a white woman, oh man, I could never tolerate such a thing. But when it's a white man with a black woman, all of a sudden we letting our guard down, we accepting it, we opening the front door, we allowing the adversary to come into the vicinity, right? So I want to discuss the roots of that. Where does that come from? Why do they have this mentality? Because this is not a natural phenomenon. This is something implanted into their brains. So why do they think like this? We're going to discuss this. Anyway, run the clip. I'll be right back.
I think if you give us a black Republican with a black wife, we'll probably be more accepting to it. Most of them be black with white wives. And after you know for a fact with us.
I think that's what got Obama in office.
Michelle did that. Michelle single-handedly.
Barack had a white wife. I don't think he.
Oh, but Barack had a white wife. We would not. Yeah. We would not be going for him as hard as we do.
And
that's scientifically proven.
I think
Hell
that's
yeah.
why a lot of black men didn't want to. Some black men didn't want to vote for Kamala Harris too.
Because of Doug. Doug didn't bother me.
But it'll bother you if a black male have a white wife.
Mm-mm.
You just said that. We just said it.
I said I think if you present it to us, I think we're more accepting to it.
What you mean presenting? Like just show, hey, I got a white wife?
No. How you just asked me a black Republican? Mm-hmm. I said I think we'll be more accepting to if it's with with a black wife.
You know what I'm saying? But what if he had the right message and everything, but he had a white wife?
You have to work a little bit harder.
That's what I'm saying. But compliment.
Because here is the thing. It goes to that thing of, how can you choose black for everything but your love? I think that's really what it goes back to.
So why is not the standard for Kamala?
Unfortunately, we have that standard
for women,
higher for men than we do for women. I can call that out, right? Because I can be the first. I say any day of the week. If I see a black man with a white woman, I'm like, that's that deep ass self-hate, my nigga. You need to do something about that, right? Flip that same coin. I see my sister with a man, I'm gonna say girl, go where you loved. So I get that. And I can honestly say that's a bias I probably need to check. Do I plan on checking it today? Hell no.
You need to.
Do I plan on checking it in 10 years? Probably hell no. I don't give a damn.
I call them wenches.
You can call me a wench all day long. I don't give a damn. You know how many wenches you got in your life? All of us. Because we probably all say the exact same thing, honey. I'm just okay saying that shit out loud.
And that's why
a lot of them won't.
I don't think, and that audience, not saying you, but.
You can call me a wench.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying that's just slavery term.
Is that where that came from?
Yeah, a bed wench. The white man had a group of concubines, black women. He would sleep with. They call them wenches. That's where we got that from. Now you view that a little bit different.
All right, we back. Now, first things first, I just want to say that brother pretty much gave you a master class, because a lot of brothers would ask me, brother, you say that you avoid, black women who date outside their race, but how would you know if she had a history of dating outside her race. Well, typically, like the brother displayed, just in conversation like this, just in passing conversation, talking about society, just talking about life, you'll genuinely get an idea of her mentality and, you know, kind of where she stands on things. You don't have to get her to admit yes or no, I've done this and that. It's the context clues, right? You can read between the lines. Obviously, this woman is open to dating outside her race simply by what she said. She didn't have to come out and explicitly say it to you. You can simply read between the lines, right? Of course, there's other things they say as well, but that's one way. Just in passing conversation, you notice the brother didn't have to ask her, you know, her history and things like that. He just asked her, so what do you think about Kamala Harris and Barack Obama, right? And then you easily find out the mentality. So anyway, before I get into, you know, my discussion and my breakdown, and I'm going to give you my thoughts as to why this mentality is so widespread and what are the roots of it. Where does this come from? Because it's not a natural thought process. This is a result of centuries of propaganda, centuries of reinforcement, and centuries of punishing certain behaviors while encouraging other behaviors. And now it's become embedded into the culture where this mentality is actually way more common than you think. And that's why I say, brothers, you have to really avoid this mentality, because if somebody can openly hold contradictory positions like this, they probably are not a person of high character. That's the main reason why you avoid this mentality, because a person who holds contradictory views is not a person of high character and doesn't really have a foundation of what they believe in and can't really be trusted. But anyway, before we get started, I just want to take a look at some of the reactions on social media. This person said, at least she's honest, right? And I actually agree. At least she's honest, right? She just came out and said, yeah, I know it doesn't make any sense, but that's what I believe in, right? I believe in allowing the white man to share power in the black community, right? So it's all good, man. Like I said, it's all good. I have no problem with it. My thing is, my only issue is some that try to dance around the subject and try to, you know, do all this mental gymnastic. At least in this case, she just said, yeah, you know, it is what it is. So in that sense, I can respect the honesty as well. Anyway, this person said she spoke for 2 minutes and contradicted herself the entire time. Yeah, but, you know, at least she was honest, though. She was more honest than most. You know, I done heard people try to dance around, go all the way around the world before they just admit, yeah, I got love for the white man, but I hate the white woman. Like, just come out and just say that. Just come out and just say that. See, when it comes to me, one of the main reasons I prefer to deal with black women exclusively is because if you deal with the woman, you're going to have to deal with the men of that community as well, right? It's a package deal. If you deal with the women, you have to deal with the men. And because I already know that I don't have anything in common with the men of that community, why am I going to deal with the women of that community? Because what's going to happen during Thanksgiving or when we have to have a topic about, you know, society or politics, we're not going to be on the same page. So I'm not going to waste my time dealing with your daughter if me and your father have nothing in common. Me and your father don't see the world the same way, right? So that's why I don't understand these women who deal with white men, but you have a problem with white women though, right? Because you're going to have to deal with the women of his community because it's a package deal. You're not going to deal with the men, but then somehow avoid dealing with the women. That's the main reason I deal with my own women, because I know, at least with my brothers, we see the world a similar way. We can have a conversation at the Thanksgiving dinner table, and it's not going to turn into a whole big argument. He's not going to start, you know, spouting out Charlie Kirk talking points and things like that. That's one of the main reasons, right? If I don't have anything in common with the men of that community, why am I going to waste time dealing with their daughters, bro? You know what I mean? So I don't understand these women who they want to deal with, you know, white men, but you have an issue with the white woman. If you see the black man with the white woman, you have a problem with that. I don't understand it. I don't understand how you deal with the men of that community, but you have animosity towards the women. It seems like you have mental issues, and that's why I don't deal with those women. Anyway, let's continue. This person said, a black man with the white woman, that's that self-hate, nigga. A black woman with a white man, I see my sister. Listen, hey, that's the contradictory mentality a lot of them have, you know. That's why I say that's why you have to do like the brother. You saw how that brother, you know, very smooth with it. He was able to discern her mentality without asking direct questions. That's how you got to get to the root of what you're dealing with. Anyway, this person said, this is some of the serious problems that we face as a culture. This right here. Now, like I said, this is all externally engineered. This is not a natural thought process. If you go back, you know, hundreds of years and you ask our foremothers, they don't hold the same mentality. They'd be like, I don't understand the mentality, right? This is a result of, to be real, this is all the result of slavery, colonialism. This is not natural at all to have this thought process at all, right? These are women who have suffered the effects of enslavement and colonization. Now, anyway, let's continue. This person said, I like her. More people need to be this real if they choose to be outspoken. Agree with her or not, she said the quiet part out loud. Now, I kind of agree. Like I said, she was more honest than most. She kept it a buck more than most. You know, some people would have danced around that subject, you know, or just blame black men. Oh, it's black men's fault. Right? At least you just say, you know what? Yeah, it is what it is. That's how I feel. I can respect that. Listen, stand on your hypocrisy, baby. Stand up, you know, put on your big girl pants and then stand on that hypocrisy like a real one. Anyway, this person said, that's why Scandal, the TV show, was successful. If the roles were reversed, women would have condemned the show. Now, obviously, you know, Scandal, that's that TV show about the black woman who was the side chick to the white man. You know, the white man who was the president. You know, he was her side chick getting smashed in the broom closet and things like that. You know, major TV show. You know, major TV show, especially in the black community. Unfortunately, right? As you can see, the show's viewership grew steadily, peaking in the 4th season with an average of over 12 million viewers. While ratings declined in the later seasons, the final season still drew nearly 5.7 million viewers, which was considered impressive in the changing television landscape. The show was a massive hit for ABC, generating significant revenue, right? So listen, as you can see, the executives at ABC made millions of dollars putting out a TV show where a white man had a side chick, had a black side chick, and everybody went crazy. You know, same thing with Meghan Markle. I always say the same reason why Scandal was a big hit is the same reason why Meghan Markle and Prince Harry was also a big hit, right? The imagery of, even though she's barely black, like I said, she's mixed race, but because, you know, she was with a European prince, everybody went crazy. Like I said, if she was with a black man, everybody would have said black men are colorists, black men want to be with light-skinned women. But because she was with a white man, all of a sudden she became as black as a dark-skinned woman in Senegal. Oh man, a black woman with a European prince, it's so amazing. But if she was with a black man, they would have said black men are colorists, black men love light skin and this like that. Like I say, man, we live in a crazy world, bro. But anyway, let's continue. This brother said, it's fascinating how 21st century discussions mirror the ethnological debates of the late 1800s. Evolutionary theorists like Lester Ward argued that blacks could achieve racial advancement through interracial union, specifically between white men and black women, but black men and white women would lead to devolution, right? Now we're going to get into the anthropological and the historical and the cultural element of this conversation. What is the roots of this mentality, right? Where does it find its roots? Because this is not something organic to black women. Black women did not come up with this mentality. This was given to them and reinforced to them by society, and now they're simply just regurgitating it now without the white supremacists having to actually put it in literature and force it and beat it into them. Now they just go around evangelizing the gospel of the white supremacists of the 19th century, right? Now let's get into Lester Ward. Who was Lester Ward in the first place? As you can see, Lester Ward was an American botanist and the former president of the American Sociological Association. He was born in 1841 and died in 1913, right? So you can see, you know, he was born in the 19th century to kind of get a context of the time that he grew up in. So let's get into some literature that he wrote speaking on this topic back in the day, right? He said this. I'm going to read the parts that are underlined, right? Starting with the first one. In all of Shaler's hypothesis, the ruling assumption was that the greater adaptability and variability of whites must have been a consequence as well as a sign of their more advanced evolutionary development. Simply put, Shaler believed that Africans were less susceptible to environmental change than whites because they were less civilized. For Lester Ward, interracial contact, both in the form of cultural integration and sexual intercourse, has been and would continue to be beneficial to the Africans struggling to catch up to the superior whites. Lester Ward predicted that whites and blacks in the United States would eventually learn that they shared common interests, would join together in commercial and other enterprises, and would intermarry with one another until society became more or less racially homogeneous. Lester Ward wrote in support of white's double standard, the double sexual standard, with regard to miscegenation, condoning the sexual intercourse between white men and black women as advantageous to blacks, while castigating and forbidding sexual intercourse between black men and white women as detrimental to whites. For the purpose of evolutionary progress, according to Lester Ward, sexual intercourse should only occur between men of the conquering race, the whites, and women of the conquered race, the blacks. The other gender pairing, the intercourse between white women and black men, would have no evolutionary advantage for blacks and could only lead to white racial deterioration. Although Lester Ward offered no explanation as to why white women's birthing of black babies and white men's fathering of black babies had different evolutionary outcomes, right? So this guy, like I said, doesn't that sound very familiar with the talking points that you hear today with certain women that say, oh, it's different. It's different when we with the white man. It's different, right? But just like Lester Ward back in the 19th century, he had no explanation why. And if you ask these women, why do they feel that way? They also have no explanation why.
Even the intention, the dynamic of black women going out with white men or other men versus black men going out with white women, the whole dynamic is different. The dynamic is different. I'm not going to get into the minutia of it, but you guys know the dynamic is different. And if you don't know, you're being obtuse, and that's on you.
She has no comment.
White men what?
Oh, because white men be more caring. They listen.
Oh,
Walk off, bro. Don't come back.
Oh,
Yo, you dated a white man before?
Hold on.
I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, but the reason why the dynamic between black women and other races of men, and it definitely white men and black women, is because they treat us like human beings and they actually treat us like women. I'm going to say it again. So the reason why the dynamics of white men and black women work so beautifully and cohesively together is because white men treat black women like women. I know the history. I know that some of them fetishize. I understand that. But for the ones who truly and deeply and solely love their women, their black girlfriends and their black women, it's because they see them as women and treat them as such and spoil them as such.
Always like that.
It was always like that.
Yeah, always like black
Well,
women.
were your parents ever like?
I didn't really care about it. I'm not fucking them.
Well, I mean, I understand that. But you know,
You probably saying your parents racist. Is what you
I'm
trying to
just
say?
saying a lot of times white parents don't necessarily want to see their kids with other.
Oh.
You get what I'm saying?
I
Keep
do
the white
think-
race strong.
I will be honest. I think it's a lot easier as the son bringing a black girl home
I
than
believe
a
that.
white girl bringing a black guy home.
believe
I'll be honest. I think it's a lot easier as the son bringing a black girl home
I
than
believe
a
that.
white girl bringing a black guy
I
home.
believe that.
That would
Nah,
hit
that I
different.
believe.
So to say one of my sisters brought a black guy home, the response might have been a little different. Bringing a black girl, like,
You tapping that?
yeah.
That's hilarious. That's real shit, though.
A biracial child to a black woman is going to have a much different experience than a biracial child to a white woman. Because a black mom experience with racism and culture is what forces her to be aware in society. And so that influences how she raises her child. And women in the household tend to be the primary caregiver for their children. So the dad is just going to follow along. She's going to teach that to her child, which is going to influence the child to be a little bit more socially aware as well. Also, in the white man and black woman relationship, the white man tends to be more liberal and progressive in his thinking, not painting him as the white savior, but they tend to be a little bit more understanding and open-minded when it comes to diversity and understanding other cultures, whereas a black man will put his white woman on a pedestal simply because of the color of her skin, and she has the halo effect applied to her. The difference here is the black woman and the white woman have different levels of understanding what awareness is and how people of color are treated in this world. Whereas the biracial child of a black mom and a white dad is a little bit less likely to enter into a space like that head on because they've been raised to be a bit more aware because of the discrimination that the black mom has had to face, as well as they have probably had to face as well. So that same entitlement is not going to be displayed in the community. And I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, but a biracial child to a black mom tends to be a little bit more culturally aware than a biracial child to a white mom, because the biracial child to a black mom doesn't carry that same level of entitlement because the black mom never had the sense of entitlement in this world, because society has told her that as a black woman, you do not hold value. So some of that same mindset and thinking is going to be carried over to the biracial child of a black mom.
All right, we back. Now, a lot of brothers, they rack their brain trying to, wrap their minds around the hypocrisy, but it's not really hypocrisy, brother. You're dealing with women who are the descendants of women who were beat and psychologically abused for generations. So they're carrying a lot of generational trauma. So when they say things like, oh, well, it's different when we with the white man, listen, you're talking about women who are the victims of enslavement and colonization, right? These are just the residual carryover effects of that, unfortunately, right? That we still have to deal with in the present day. The same way how back on the plantation, everybody just accepted when you seen a black woman with a white man, everybody just shrugged their shoulders. It is what it is. But if they seen a black man with a white woman, man, we got to kill that dude, right? So a lot of times when women say these things, they're simply just really carrying the banner for white supremacists. The mentality of a white man is entitled to sex from a black woman, but if a black man is with a white woman, man, call the authorities, right? It's simply that same mentality. This is baked into the culture. In all colonial societies, this was baked into the culture. It's simply just a carryover from colonialism and enslavement. Like I said, it's not based in any academic research. Even the white supremacists of the 19th century didn't have any reason for it. They couldn't even explain why they said it. It was just, listen, they want to have access to black women and they don't want you to have access to their women. Unfortunately, now we have black women in the modern day carrying that banner for those same men who are not even alive anymore, right? Those men are dead and gone, but their ideology and their mentality still lives on today. Unfortunately, we have people in our own community upholding that same ideology and that same mentality, right? Basically authorizing that out of their own mouths that white men can have access to their bodies, but at the same time, a black man with a white woman, that is a crime against humanity. Like I said, man, these are just the remnants of colonial ideology, plantation politics, as I call it. Anyway, let's get back into some more 19th century literature from the white supremacists. Let's continue. Take a look up on the screen. The Negro in the United States is looked upon by many white persons mainly as a sexual being. He constitutes a menace to the purity of the white race. His presence bears a threat of racial amalgamation. Industrial and political relations fade into a sort of unreality when the question of sex is raised between colored people and white people. Among white Americans is developed a species of hysteria. The black man must not invade the white man's sexual preserve. The violent emotions to which sex jealousy gives rise to personal relations find their counterpart in popular outbreaks. For the Negro man, there is one unpardonable crime in the United States, and that is the transgression of code which makes white women inaccessible to all except white men. Now, as you can see, like I said, brothers, when you are a black man who studies, when you're a black man who reads, when you're a black man who is a student of history, you understand the world around you with much better clarity. When you listen to these talking points, you realize that these women are simply evangelizing or acting as Jehovah's Witnesses for an ideology that was not created by them, that was simply used to marginalize their own communities, that was simply used to kill their brothers and fathers, that was simply used to put false charges and frame them for crimes they didn't commit and use it as an excuse to lynch them in the public square. So these women in the modern day, because a lot of them unfortunately are not students of history, they don't understand what they're saying. They don't understand the roots. Where did these things come from? Who actually came up with these talking points? Where did these talking points originate? A lot of them don't even know, but at the same time, many of them feel so passionately about what they're saying, even though they don't even know the origins of what they are saying, especially the woman who was saying, oh, it's different when the biracial child has a white father versus a black father, right? The white father, the biracial child with the white father is superior. That's what she said, right? She went on a whole diatribe about the biracial child with the white father is superior. The biracial child with the white father is going to be in tune with the culture. The biracial child with the white father, just bigging up the biracial child with the white father. What makes her any different than Lester Ward or Arthur de Gobineau or any 19th century white supremacist who wrote books talking about the superiority of whites, the alleged superiority of whites, and the alleged inferiority of blacks? What makes them any different when they say these exact same talking points, right? Oh, the biracial child with the white father is superior. Oh man, it's different when I'm with the white man versus you with the white woman. It's different. It's better when I'm with the white man, right? These women are simply, like I said, these are psychological victims of colonization and enslavement. These thoughts and mentalities and ideologies don't even make sense. It doesn't even make sense. And the worst part about it is a lot of women with this mentality, they claim to be pro-black. That's the worst part. They claim to be pro-black. Remember, just the other day, I made that video last week about the FBA swirler, right? Oh man, going hard against the black immigrants, but talking about, oh, I have a history of dating the white man. And then guess what? She made a video, responded to me again. She said, oh yeah, whatever I do with my coochie, I'm gonna do whatever I want. I'm gonna date the white man. I don't give a damn. And then she went right back to talking about black immigrants again. Like I said, we always talk about the black man, but we never talk about the psychological residue of enslavement and colonization on the psyche of the black woman. We just automatically assume that the black woman came out unscathed and she doesn't have any residual effects that carry over in the modern day that manifest in front of our eyes today. We just simply act like, oh man, the black woman, man, it's all good. Whatever she do, we don't got to talk about it. We don't got to have a discussion about it. Let's talk about the black man instead, and don't worry about what the black woman doing. Why is that? How come we are not allowed to talk about the black woman? Why is that? Why are we not allowed to question these mentalities and ideologies that are clearly problematic and that are clearly not rooted in any historical reality? And when you look at the origins of these mentalities and talking points, it comes from a bunch of racist white men. So we have to question it. We have to have a conversation about it. Why are we not allowed to talk about it? I'm going to talk about it. You know me, I'm not afraid to talk about nothing. We're going to talk about it. Anyway, let's get back to some of the reactions on social media, right? This person said, if he was right, then Latin America would look like Wakanda, right? Now, that goes back to Lester Ward, what we discussed earlier in the video, when he said, you know, Lester Ward, the 19th century white supremacist, when he said that a black woman being with a white man, that's advantageous to the black race. And this brother said if he was right, then Latin America would look like Wakanda. But obviously we know that Latin America is not Wakanda. We know Latin America is one of the most anti-black places on the planet. We know Latin America is a bunch of mixed race individuals that are holding for dear life onto the European ancestry, right? I even gave the video the other day last week when I talked about Myron Gaines. I also talked about the Dominican dictator Rafael Trujillo. And of course, we know that he committed mass murder against the Haitians, killed, you know, thousands upon thousands of Haitians because of his anti-black racism. But many people don't know that Rafael Trujillo had Haitian ancestry, right? Many people don't know that Toussaint Louverture was Rafael Trujillo's great uncle, because Toussaint Louverture married off his sister to a French aristocrat, and later down the line, her great grandson was Rafael Trujillo, and he committed mass murder against the Haitians, right? We can look at Brazil, the racism in Brazil. We can look at Latin America is full of colorism, racial caste systems, anti-blackness. The blacks are marginalized at the bottom of society. So if what Lester Ward was saying was correct, that black women getting with white men would be advantageous to the black race, we can look at Latin America, and that debunks his whole claim. That debunks all of that. A whole region full of the offspring of white men and black women, full of racism, anti-blackness, colorism, and anti-black hatred. So that debunks that whole bullshit. That's why even back in the day, Lester Ward couldn't even come up with a reason for his assertion. He couldn't even explain his hypothesis. Just like in the modern day, these same women can't even explain their hypothesis because it's not rooted in any historical reality. It's just rooted in bullshit created by white men who are racist. Anyway, let's continue. This brother said, it's also why they instilled the one drop rule to keep blacks in perpetual bondage, because too many mulattoes were being freed as a result of sexual assaults and taking on the status of their father. The other dynamic of black men and white women was more rare, dangerous, and policed. He went on to say, I think it all boils down to the seed lineage. Since men carry the seed, men go to war to prolong their seed line while destroying others through means of violence and sexual assault. Kind of like how Haitian mulattoes with French fathers sided with the French. Right now, that's a whole different discussion, but that's a whole different conversation. But anyway, he went on to say, it completely depends on who the father is. This is why they would lynch black men who dealt with white women, but they would procreate with black women. The children have always adopted the culture of their fathers. Look at Latino and Creole people. They uphold Spanish and French culture over their black culture. This is a war tactic. Now, that's a fact. That's a fact. Like I said, we've discussed this because on this channel, we actually read. On this channel, we are actually students of history. So what we say is based in historical reality. It's not based in, lust in this, TikTok fantasy, right? It's based in reality. And in reality, we can see that the children of when black women dealt with other races of men, those children, many times throughout history, grew up to establish societies in which the blacks were marginalized at the bottom, and they committed acts of genocidal murder against the black population, against their mother's side of their family. That's simply the historical reality, right? In the United States, it was only different because the white fathers completely abandoned their children. That's the reason why in the United States you have the one drop rule where the mulattoes and the mixed race people more so identify with their black side, because the white fathers completely abandoned them. The white fathers did not acknowledge them. The white fathers acted like they did not even exist. So they had no choice but to embrace their black side. But in other colonies, like the Spanish colonies, the French colonies, the Portuguese colonies, where the fathers actually embraced their children grew up to become little conquistadors. Their children grew up to become little white supremacists. Their children grew up to terrorize the black population, right? The only reason it's different in the United States is because the white men abandoned their children wholesale and did not acknowledge them. Therefore, the children had no access to white culture, European culture. But when the children had access to their father's culture, they upheld it with genocidal violence. Now, let's continue. He went on to say, those kids would be classified as black and would have to grow up amongst our people. That isolation actually benefited us. There was no confusion on who the enemy was. The French and the Spanish moved differently. They integrated their mulattoes. So they grew up trying to be like their white fathers, even though they would never fully be accepted. Those mulattoes were sent to military schools to be indoctrinated. They were slave traders. They were slave owners. They wanted nothing to do with their mother's people. This created a gray area and confusion. This is why you have melanated countries that are colorist and have anti-black sentiments. No indigenous or black man is teaching their son to hate being black. Only white men and their black wives were pushing that bullshit. That's a fact. That's a fact. We can look, like I said, we can just look at Latin America. We can look at the Sudan right now, the blacks getting genocided wholesale, and we can just see that this so-called TikTok fantasy of, oh man, it's different when I'm with the other races of men. It's not. No, it's not. I don't understand this talking point. Oh man, the biracial child with the white father, he's gonna get the black culture from his black mother who loves white men. Who created this talking point, bro?
I'm the biracial daughter of a black woman who hates being black. She hated being black so much that she hated me for being white. She would constantly point out the differences in our skin tone. She would tell me that I was lucky for being so light. She would tell me that she wished that she could be as light as I was, that all she had to do was stay out of the sun a little bit longer. She would tell me things like she was sorry for giving me my hair texture. She was sorry for giving me such a strong features, such a strong nose, such strong shoulders and strong muscles, strong arms. She would apologize for my build because I was built like a black girl, and she would tell me, I'm sorry I can't take you to these stores. I'm sorry you can't wear this style because you're built like a black girl and I messed you up. She would rub white towels over her skin and check for skin flakes, because if she couldn't see any skin flakes on there, it must mean that she's pale enough now. She's light enough now. But because she hated being black and I was white and I leaned into my black heritage and was unashamed of it in the way that she tried to teach me to be, she felt like I was wasting a gift by leaning into it.
All right, we back. Now, the reason why I played that video, this woman, claims to be the daughter of a white man with a black wife, right? That is how you got Latin America. That is how you got the caste systems in Brazil. That is how you got Rafael Trujillo committing mass murder against the Haitians, even though his great-great-grandmother was the sister of a Haitian revolutionary general, right? That is the reason why we see in all these multiracial societies, we see that the blacks are marginalized at the bottom and the culture of the father is upheld as supreme, because that's naturally what happens when you say, oh, well, the child with the white father, he's better. The child with the white father, he's superior. The child with the white father, he's going to be more in tune, this and that, and this and that. So naturally, when you're constantly bigging up the white father, you're constantly, oh man, glorifying the white father. Of course, you're going to get all these multiracial societies where blackness is pushed at the bottom, because you're saying the only difference is the race of the father, right? You're saying the race of the father is the reason why the biracial child is superior, right? And you expect me to believe that you're gonna create these little black revolutionaries, these little Malcolm X's with the white father? Please, right? When we have to discuss these certain things, we have to approach it from an historical level, a cultural level, anthropological level, and get to the root cause. Examine the literature from back in the day. What were they talking about? What were they writing about? And then you begin to make sense of why women say these things, right? Because even me myself, for the longest time, I didn't understand still, like, why are they so committed to these false teachings, right? They're so committed to the superiority of the biracial child with the white father. When I'm with the white man, it's different. It's better when I'm with the white man than you with the white woman. It's so crazy. I hate the white woman, but I love the white man. It's like, bro, I don't get it, bro. I really don't get it. I really don't get it. But like I said, those of us on this channel, we are students of history, so we understand the roots of it. We understand the origins of it, but I still don't understand it. It still racks my brain of how passionately they defend it, right? And even in that girl's comment section, right? It's so many women in the comment section. I don't believe you. I don't believe you. You're lying. You're lying. You're lying, right? They're telling this girl that she's lying. She's lying about her self-hating mother. Bro, listen, if you bending over for the white man, you got to be a little self-hating, just a little bit, even just a smidgen, just a tiny bit. It got to be some self-hate for you to bend over literally for the white man. If we talk about, for example, when we talk about these sellout politicians, these sellout leaders, and we say, oh, look at them bending over for the imperialists. If you're physically bending over for the imperialists, what makes you any different? You're worse. You're worse than the sellout leaders in Africa. At least they're not physically bending over. You literally bending over. Anyway, man, this is your boy Never Car Doesn't Leave. I'm gone, man. Peace. Feel like it's see me, I feel like I'm Saudi or ran up on Yana in the middle of Bamako. Enemy line, they claiming they innocent. Don't do no talking, I gotta move militant. Don't do no talking, I hit them with facts. 1804, bringing it back. 1804 like I'm Mother Cap Henry. King with the vision, the crown never empty. Top of the mountain, my soldiers defend me. Ducking and dodging the foreign intelligence. Hitting my dance on the DGSE. Dodging they traps, still on my feet. Feeling impeccable, feel like I'm shining. Go to my neck and I'm flooded with diamonds. Go to my neck and I feel like a mess. Feel like a lion, I'm in the savannah. Feel like the king when I'm up in the jungle. Never defeated, I never been humble. Come out victorious every encounter. Money machine give me help when I count it. Money machine stack it up in a beat. Heart of a king and I ride for the team. Weight of the world got it stuck on my shoulders. Bet you can feel it, my heart getting colder. Yeah, gotta stay focused so when it's in shots, I gotta react. Cause I'm a target, I'm under attack. Grabbing a weapon, I tell her get back. Mission exposed, secrets unfold. Enemy try, but I'm still in control. Got your boy sitting in Bamako prison. Hoping they wish we sending them home. Enemy know that we good under pressure. Been through the thunderous, turbulent storm. Shorty a diamond, I told her she pressure. Hop in a whip and I'm taking her home. Hop in a whip and I'm swerving, I'm smashed. Killing my enemies, one of my passion. Rocking this gold like we in bikini. Feel like the captain, I'm clutching a heater. Yeah, gotta stay focused so when it's in shots, I gotta react. Cause I'm a target, I'm under attack. Grabbing a weapon, I tell her get back. Mission exposed, secrets unfold. Enemy try, but I'm still in control. Got your boy sitting in Bamako prison. Hoping they wish we sending them home. Enemy know that we good under pressure. Been through the thunderous, turbulent storm. Shorty a diamond, I told her she pressure. Hop in a whip and I'm taking her home. Hop in a whip and I'm swerving, I'm smashed. Killing my enemies, one of my passion. Rocking this gold like we in bikini. Feel like the captain, I'm clutching a heater.